Everybody, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Again, assalamu alaikum everybody. Good to see you guys. You guys good with the chairs? Okay. So, Bismillah. What time is it? Time's making me nervous today. So last week, or the last few sessions that we had, we talked about Ayat an-Nur. Who was here for that? Raise your hands. Nice. Okay, good. So if you weren't here for it, it's okay. You should feel a little bit ashamed, but it's fine. It's fine, I guess. But no, so we talked about Ayat an-Nur, and a lot of that was a conversation around what we call the Ruh. You guys remember the conversation about the Ruh and where it came from and all of that? After that, this was a little bit impromptu of me. I did not intend to do this, but I figured that afterwards it'd be appropriate to also talk about what it means to be human, like the way that I presented it last time, what it means to be human in the Quranic perspective. So here's some words that you might have heard of before that maybe you haven't really studied in detail or don't know how to translate properly, whatever. You might have heard the word ruh before, maybe the word nafs before. Who's heard of either of these two words before? Who's heard actually both of them? If you heard both words, raise your hand. Okay. The ruhs we usually translate as the soul. I think even I probably used that word last time. And then the nafs. How would you guys translate the nafs? If ruh is the soul, how would you translate the word nafs? Which comes up a lot in Quran. The nafs is a very Quranic concept. But how would you put that in a word?
The self.
The self. What else?
The conscience.
The conscience, okay. It's a good one too. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
It's okay. You were like so disappointed. It's okay. He's going to beat you up after, I think. Anyone else hear anything else? Those are typically what they usually. Oh, go ahead, Ali. You don't have to raise your hand, bro. I'm asking. Oh, go ahead.
Say soul and body. Like
Both combined. Okay. Yeah, I've heard soul be used for it. So we hear self. We hear soul also for nafs. That's also a way to think about it, actually. Self or soul. You might have heard even lower self in translations. Animal self, even when I want to get super fancy, they call it the animal self even. So you get a lot of these. The really confusing thing is when they're both translated as soul. Like if nafs is the soul and the ruh is the soul, then what's the difference? Is one like super soul and one not super? Like what's the difference with it? So I want to talk about that actually. What we're going to do today is I'm going to present this concept of the nafs, and then inshallah, and talking about the ruh too a little bit as well. Try to put them. The real problem is honestly English. It's not the Arabic of it, it's the English of it. Like the word soul is almost limiting of what a ruh is or what a nafs is. It's extremely limiting. In fact, when I say the word soul, I bet you think of a very Tom and Jerry concept of like a small little blue ball of light in someone, and then when they die, a ghost of themselves leaves and goes to Tom and Jerry heaven, and then they come back when someone resuscitates them, and then they blow up or something like that, right? It's kind of limiting. It's almost a cartoonish thing in English, a soul, right? So I want to give it more concrete terms and try as best as I can. It's not a very complicated concept, but the nafs is like a system of things that make you who you are. It's very simple to understand, but something I want to go through with you. The surah that I thought best introduced this, or can be used at least to best introduce the concept of the nafs, which I'm not going to translate in English. You can think of it as self for now, but I'm going to use the Arabic word nafs. And for soul, I'm going to use the word ruh. You're not going to hear me go back to English. I'm going to use nafs and ruh going forward, just so please don't be confused with that. But I thought Surah Ash-Shams was a great way to introduce this concept of both of them in kind of proper terms. And then what I want to do next, inshallah, obviously for the rest of November, so not next week but the week after, and then probably 2 or 3 sessions after, I want to go to the first nafs of Adam alayhi salam and do that whole story. And then after that, we'll see, I'll make something else up after that. But that's what I want to do next, inshallah. But anyway, we good? Enough of an intro? Someone's already falling asleep? Okay, good. Doing my job. Okay, so bismillah. We'll start from the beginning. It's a pretty short surah. If you want to get it out on your phones as well, it's surah number 91 if you want to follow along. It's half a page, less than half a page. So we might finish the whole thing, but because I have a big mouth, we probably won't. But I'm going to try my best, inshallah. Okay. We start in the beginning. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. والشمس وضحاها. Duhaha, excuse me. Allah starts this surah with a bunch of oaths. We covered oaths before. This must have been like months back though with wal asr. Remember we talked about wal asr? Or even la uqsimu. What did we say? What else did we? What other oaths did we do?
We did Buruj, right?
No, we did not do Buruj. We did Mawaqi al-Nujum. Like I swear by the placement of the stars. We've only covered oaths maybe once or twice, but this is our third time. And if you're new, it's your first time. Okay. So the way that oaths work in the Quran, Allah swears by a bunch of different stuff. So Allah swears by, for example, we covered wal asr. Allah swears by time that's running out, or just I swear by time. We covered before, Allah says, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِيَ النُّجُومِ. Allah says, no, I swear by the placement of the stars. What else does He swear by that you know about? Probably other surahs they have memorized even, because most of it is in the end of Quran, in Mecca Quran, or the last juz of it. But what other stuff does He swear by that you know? Wal-layl, good. Is that here? No, it's not here. But, oh yeah, it is here. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. Wal-duha, good. Wal-fajr, good. So you know a bunch of stuff. By the morning, by duha, different type of morning. There's a lot of different things that Allah swears by. There's an opinion that Allah swears by stuff just because they're magnificent. The problem with that opinion that some scholars point out is that, well, then you can just kind of switch out the oaths and then it still makes sense. Like instead of wal asr in the insan if you khusr, you could just say wal fajr in the insan if you khusr, and it's the same thing. So it's problematic. We know, or at least I hope you guys are starting to grasp, when Allah picks specific words, or when He even here swears by specific things, there's a point why He chose those things to swear by. It's not random. There's a process to this. The overall structure of Allah swearing by something is you have in Arabic al-qasam and al-jawab al-qasam. All that means is the thing that He swears by and the point He's trying to make. That make sense? So He swears by a number of things here. 7 things. 7 things. And then there's a point that He makes at the end of the 7 things. That's all that's going to be happening here. But because there are 7 things, try to keep up, yes? This is going to be a little bit conceptual today. So, in the beginning, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. Allah says, I swear by the sun, and I swear by its brilliant light, duhaha. You can also say duha is like the early morning, but probably here it just means the sun's own light. I swear by the sun and its brilliant light. وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. And I swear by the moon. So far we have a pair, the sun and the moon, yes? Pay attention to the pairs, by the way, it's going to be important. 7 oaths, remember the pairs. Okay, so first He swears by the sun and its brilliant light. Then He swears by al-qamar, the moon, إِذَا تَلَاهَا, as it follows it. What's the it here? Sun. The sun. Okay. وَالنَّهَارِ, talwa means to follow. So you've heard the word tilawa. What's tilawa?
Following the words on the page.
Yeah, it's recitation though, right? So if I say alhamdulillah, that's tilawa, it's because I'm following on a page. That's where that comes from. Okay, so al-qamar wal-qamari idha talaha, and I swear by the moon as it follows it, meaning follows the sun. Wan-nahari idha jallaha, and I swear by the morning, or by the day, I swear by the day when it makes it brilliant, or when it gives it a chance to be brilliant. Idha jallaha. Jalla, it's actually kind of funny. Jalla can be used for like a bald man, because his lack of hair makes his head more beautiful and shiny. It's jallaha, it's mashallah, jallaha, jalil. Yeah, it's like beautiful like that, right? So idha jallaha, the day is what gives the sun the opportunity to show its brilliance. That's what's kind of being said here. وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. And I swear by the night as it covers it. Again, it being the sun. So far we have the sun. I swear by the sun and its brilliant light. Then I swear by the moon as it follows the sun. Then I swear by the day and how it gives the sun its brilliance. And then I swear by the night as it covers up the sun. And obviously this is not scientific. Allah is not making scientific points here. The night is not a blanket that literally covers the sun, but that's the image that it's giving. Yes? Okay. So we have sun, moon, then night and day so far. Okay. Number 4 or 5. وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا. And I swear by the sky, and وَمَا بَنَاهَا, and how it was constructed. Bana is usually, back in the day, was used when there was like a tall tower. So something that you have to look up like this, that's like a bana. Yeah? Bunyan, I think, comes from this word as well. So it means like when a bunch of different parts are fused together to make one structure. So Allah is giving it like the vibe of like a tall tower that was just built and you're looking up at it. وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا, and how it was built and how tall it was built. وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَحَاهَا, and I swear by the earth. So now we have the third pair, the sky and the earth. وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَحَاهَا, and I swear by the earth and how it was smoothed out. How it was smoothed out. Taha is like to, let me see if I'm missing anything about taha that's important. It's basically like when, like if you've seen concrete before, like when it's super rough, and then you see, this is a really boring example, but this is, and you see someone like smooth it out and go, that really annoying sound that it makes when someone like kind of goes like this. That's like taha. He's making it super smooth and walkable. That's the idea of this, is that Allah subdued the earth. Obviously there's still mountains and everything, but it's not crazy enough, the landscape, that we can't traverse it or explore it. وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَحَاهَا. So I'm going to reiterate one more time, because now we're getting to the juicy part. So far we have 6 oaths out of 7. I didn't tell you the 7th one yet. The first 2 things he swore by, the sun and then the moon. The second pair he swore by, the night and the day. Okay, and the last pair, the sky and the earth. Okay, you'll notice there's 7. So the one without a pair is this one. So Allah set up a pattern so far, yes? Like so far, even a 10-year-old could be like, yeah, I can expect this. Sun, moon, day, okay, probably night. Yep, it's night. Sky, probably earth. Yep, it's earth. It's like, a 5-year-old can play this game. But then, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, and I swear by, you can even say every nafs, or just the nafs, and how it was evened out. Taha means to like make it smooth. Here the word is sawaha, taswiya. Taswiya is like when something is completely uneven, like something is uneven and then you smooth it out so that's perfectly even. It's perfectly flat and even out. It's balanced even. You can say it's balanced out. So all of it, all the sides weigh even the same. Is taswiya, okay? And I swear by the nafs, which we didn't do in English yet, وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, and how it was evened out. And there's no pair to this one. The oaths are over. And I told you there's 2 things when Allah swears by stuff. It's the thing that He swears by. In this case, there's 7 things. And then there's the point. I didn't tell you the point yet. We'll get to the point in a little bit, okay? First, what I want to do is I want to tell you about this word nafs. I have recently been extremely interested in this because, as some of you might know, like I've been doing an internship in therapy, and I've been really, really struggling and trying to get into like Islamic psychology, trying to understand what is psychology from the Islamic point of view, and it always goes back to this word, nafs. Even actually, Islamic psychology existed hundreds of years before even Freud. We have a long history in the Muslim world of psychology. Like we were the ones, for example, to come up with the idea of music for therapy. That was a Muslim invention, actually. Hundreds of years before even Freud was born, we had Islamic psychology. And in my mind, I'm like, what did they figure out that they used across the globe in the Muslim world for hundreds of years that Freud completely threw out behind his back? Because they're not going to teach us stuff. Like I did a major in psych at UIC. They didn't teach me Islamic psych. They don't care. They don't care about Islamic psychology. That stuff is old and they don't care anymore, or it's not in line with Western thinking, so they kind of throw it and they don't really teach it anymore. So I got really interested. I don't know a lot about it yet. I'm not going to claim I do. But it always comes back to this word, nafs. Nafs in general, and I want to caveat this really quickly, okay? Because I want to be like intellectually fair with you guys. For the most part, there seems to be 2 different ways to understand how the nafs works. They're really similar. It's very nuanced. It doesn't matter that much, the difference between the 2. But I'm going to share with you the one that I learned in tafsir, and the one that Shaykh Kifah also agrees with. I asked him what he thinks. He agreed with this first one. The second one, maybe I'll share with you later, but it's not important right now, and they're kind of the same. They're just minor nuances. So I want to be fair about that, but I want to explain to you what is a nafs, or commonly translated as a self. What is the self? Let's talk about the self in Western tradition first, and we'll move on to the Quranic concept of it. The self in Western tradition is very obsessed with the mind, feelings, And basically, in a nutshell, it's very materialistic. Do you guys know what materialism is? Materialism is like the idea that all that matters is what you can actually touch or smell or taste. That's all that matters. So Freud, you guys have heard of Sigmund Freud if you took like even a basic psych class or history class or whatever. Sigmund Freud is usually called the father of psychology, although almost nothing he said nowadays is actually used, which I find very funny. It's all mostly debunked actually, but people still call him the father of psychology. It's really
controversial takes.
Yeah, a lot of really weird ones too that I'm not going to get into, but anyway, that's him. We talked about him a little bit before. The way that he thought of a person or talked about the self was very materialistic, meaning he would literally even go as far as to say that any spiritual experience or anything to do with like the soul or God or whatever are actually, for the most part, mental disorders that should be completely thrown to the side because they're getting in the way of actual psychological health. That was his take on psychology. What's really ironic about that is psychology is a Greek word. You guys know ology, for example, is a word you put at the end, a suffix you put at the end of the word that just means the study of something. So cardiology, the study of the heart, for example, okay? Psychology is the study of the psyche. Psyche in Greek means soul. So even in its origin, in the Greek origin, it was a spiritual endeavor up until Freud, which is really interesting. Freud came along and the people that kind of inherited from him, and for the most part, they took the soul and they ripped it out. They took spirituality and they ripped it out and God and all of it, and it became extremely, the word again is materialistic. It's all about how you feel. It's all about what you're thinking. It's all about what I can measure. And if I can't measure it, I don't care about it. Does that make sense? That's what it's become. Obviously, we don't believe this whatsoever. And this is kind of a little bit of a problem for like Muslim therapists today or Muslims that go to therapy. A lot of the time, Muslims that go to therapy have a trouble vibing with the therapist because they're most likely non-Muslim and they're telling them weird things that they don't agree with. Like, yeah, I'm having problems with my mom or my dad. And the therapist is like, yeah, you should leave them. Nancy, what? Like, you know what I mean? Or stuff like that. Or like, oh, my family's so mad because I started drinking and I just don't know how to stop, blah, blah, blah. Well, who are they to tell you what to do? That kind of idea is very materialistic. It ignores a big part of what we believe in, which is the ruh. Does that make sense so far? So I want to call out that difference. Now, what is the nafs? Sorry, I keep going back to this question. Now I think for real, I'm going to actually... Here's the nafs. Everything, Islamically speaking, goes back to the heart. It was very... Oh, what happened here? Okay. Everything, Islamically speaking, Quranic even language goes back to the heart. And I mean like literally everything. Feelings, like in pop culture, feelings go back to the heart, for example, right? In Quran, almost everything goes back to the heart. And in Hadith too. The Prophet ﷺ, for example, taught us that verily, there is a lump of flesh in the body that if it's salim, if it's, intact, the whole body is intact. Right? And if it's corrupted, the whole body is corrupted, and guess what it is? It's the heart. Yeah? And here, obviously, it's a spiritual heart. It's not like that thing that's pumping blood, but there's a spiritual reality of the heart that everything goes back to. Your motivation, Allah says, goes back to the heart. Desires reside in the heart. Illness can be spiritual illness, I mean. Like, بَلْ رَانَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. They have their hearts are rusted over, for example. Or فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ maradun, for example, there's a sickness in their hearts. Even and obviously feelings, yes, feelings, so anger and jealousy and happiness and love, whatever, all of that also goes back to the heart. That makes sense too. But actually one really unique one about Quran, thinking actually happens in the heart, not in the mind. Now we know nowadays, just to quickly pass over the physical reality, we know nowadays there is a bundle of neural networks that connect the brain and the heart directly with nothing in between, which is interesting. So the heart literally has a cognitive feature in the body. But putting that to the side, more importantly than that, real thinking in the Quranic perspective starts not in the mind, but in the heart. Now obviously we're Westerners, so we have like this kind of like idea that we don't even think twice. In our mind, the center, in our mind, I don't mean the Muslim mind right now, I mean like the Western American mind, the European mind, for example. When we think of the center of a person or the headquarters of a person, what do we think of? The brain. We think up here. This is who I am. This is what I think. This is what drives my everyday actions. This is where my feelings come from. This is where everything comes from. In the Islamic perspective, I don't even want to say stripped it away because we came first anyway, but it's stripped away from the brain, and the heart is the center of a person. So for example, we covered on Judgment Day, there will be a light emanating from someone's right hand, inshallah, may Allah make us of them, and emanating not from the mind, but from the chest, meaning from the heart. That's what that means. Meaning the iman, the faith that you have in the heart, which obviously resides in the heart as well as your iman and your faith. If there's iman in the heart, then on Judgment Day you're raised with light coming out of your heart. But everything, my point is, you're thinking, everything goes back to the heart. Just a quick little concept of like thinking in the heart, just so I don't confuse anybody. Obviously we know you think with your brain, but there's a real thinking that happens that actually starts at the heart, and the brain is used as a tool. Let me tell you the difference between thinking of the heart and thinking of the brain, just really quickly. You can be a complete genius, cognitively speaking, IQ of 130, I don't care what, okay? And you develop medicines, you develop medications that save people's lives. And then what can you do with that? You can mark up the price thousands of dollars, which is, by the way, very, very smart to do. Technically, it's very smart. It's not a dumb thing to do, it's a very intelligent thing to do because it helps you. Technically, that's a smart thing, yes or no? It's a bad thing, but it's a smart thing. You can even make up lobbies and laws where you are the only competition. I'll give you an example. Should I tell you who it is? No. Someone I know is, he needs a drug, and he cannot buy it in the United States. He has to illegally ship it from Canada illegally, which is so funny to me. I don't know how he's allowed to do it. He illegally ships it from Canada to come to the United States because the US doesn't allow it. And he figured out the reason it doesn't allow it is because the only competitor in the US for this drug is $5,000 a pill. And they messed with the lobbies enough that no one else can compete with them. Genius move. Thinking, yes? It's up here. But see, Quranic thinking, which starts at the heart, would be, I'm going to develop this life-saving medicine and I'm going to get it to as many people as possible. Also genius. Also thinking. But didn't start from the same place. Does that make sense, the difference between the two? Okay, bismillah. My point is, everything Islamically starts and ends where? The heart. Well, it doesn't end, but starts at least at the heart. Okay. The majority of the things we know about the heart, the feelings and the desire and the everything, is the part of the heart concerned with the body and its needs. So for example, sexual desire. For example, hunger. For example, thirst. For example, needing attention. For example, needing love or wanting affection or wanting whatever it is that you want. That is something that starts here and ends up at your limb. So for example, hasad is a very strong emotion, but it's not something that's at the fingertips. It's something that starts here, and if you don't control it, it kind of breaks out like a prisoner and ends up at your fingertips where you start doing dumb things, for example, right? But it starts and it grows here and then it escapes out of there. So a lot of the bodily experiences that we have, it's something that resides in the heart. However, we learned last time, now getting to the juicy part, we learned last time we are not just a body. We do not believe in materialism, where Sigmund Freud stopped and ended all the stuff that he quote unquote figured out, and I'm not going to take it away, he figured out a lot of stuff. He taught a lot of sometimes even beneficial things, but they were all to benefit what? The body. How do we make the body more healthy? How do we make feelings more regulated? How do we make thinking more regulated? Actually, I want to call out one thing we talked about almost a year ago with Edward Bernays. You guys remember that discussion with Edward Bernays? The problem with psychology, when you reduce a human being to an animal, which at the end of the day we are, even in Islamic perspective, we are a type of animal. Even in the Islamic perspective, which I'll get to in a second. But we don't believe we're just animals in Islam. We're not just some advanced animal. But in the realm of psychology and biology and evolution theory, we are literally just super smart animals with extra special thumbs. That's all we are at the end of the day, yes? You know, one big problem when you introduce that idea to psychology is psychologists like Freud and his nephew Edward Bernays and Skinner and all these different psychologists they would look at you and be mortified. What will these animals do? These animals will get angry. And when enough of them get angry, what do they tend to do? Rebel. And they fight. And when they don't like something, they burn things. We need to find a way to control these animals. That's what happens, by the way, when you think of a human being or a bunch of humans as just an animal thing. We do not believe this. I'm just calling out Western psychology for that right now, okay? We believe, and we talked about this with Ayat an-Nur, what did Allah intervene the evolution of this creature, the human being? He intervened it and put something in it that was not put in anything else. What is that thing? The ruh. You can think of, even if you want to accept evolution, I technically don't have like that much of a problem with it, Allahu Alam. But if you want to accept it just as is, let's not even put nuance, we just accept it. Let's just say, assume you accept evolution, fine. In this evolutionary tract, where monkeys became whatever, a dolphin used to have legs and whatever the case may be, okay. In our evolution, we were supposed to just end up being a super advanced monkey. That's all we were supposed to be. But Allah intervened in what would have just been a cause and effect of evolution and put in this extremely special substance that we really don't know a lot about. Even in the Islamic tradition, we don't know a whole lot about it. We know a few things, but not a lot. Like, we don't even know what it is technically. We know it's made of light. We know it was in the company of Allah. Beyond that, we don't know much. As we know it's from the Amr of Allah. Beyond that, we don't know much. But He took this ruh, this thing that actually does make you alive. This is, your life is owed, when the ruh leaves the body, you're dead, literally. Just like when water leaves a tree, the tree dies. This is your water, and you're that tree. So He took this ruh and alhamaha, He put it in this nafs, in this thing that was supposed to just be an animal. And from there, that's where we get everything about us that is different from other animals. In this heart, you have the body, the needs of the body, rahmakallah. You have the needs of the body, these feelings, these emotions, these emotional needs, physical needs, sexual needs, whatever needs. And then you also have, competing with the needs of the body, the needs of the what? The needs of the ruh. Now the body, Allah said He made, for example, Adam alayhi salam, what did He make Adam out of? Which by extension He made us out of what? Clay. So meaning He took clay from the earth and fashioned Adam. Okay, let's focus on Adam as clay, Adam as earth, Adam as dirt, right? Alayhi salam. Adam as dirt, he's made of dirt. And all the things that body made of dirt need to survive also come from, guess what? Dirt, out of the earth. So the water comes from the earth that he drinks. The food is grown out of the earth. The clothes that he makes are made from what? From the earth. His spouse and his kids and the social needs he get also are made of dirt, so they're technically come from the earth. You have all of the ingredient of ours, that's clay and dirt. We are nourished and we keep that thing alive. My skin is able to be kept alive. My eyeballs can see because I drink water. I eat food. I have nourishment of different variety. And I'm able to keep the body, the earth, alive because I eat from the earth. Makes sense, yes? What is the ruh made out of? I said a minute ago, it's made out of light. This is not something of this world. Literally think about it. You have Adam alayhi salam, he's made of this thing that's made from this lower substance, from dirt. And then there's also this higher substance, this ruh, which is made of light. And Allah Himself intervened and connected these two things together, and that's what makes a human being. So if the ruh is made of light, its food should also be made of what? Light. And what is that food that I've said probably 4 times at this point in Tanzeel? What is that food that keeps the ruh alive? It's Quran. Quran is light. وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا. And the light that we sent down. So you can imagine, for example, a heart without Quran is just an animal. Actually, let me take this concept further. This is actually very scary. Of the many things... Oh no. That was good. Okay, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. Of the many things that are scary about Judgment Day, I'm not going to be distracted by that. Of the many things that are scary about not even Judgment Day, but the signs of the Day of Judgment. You guys know like a bunch of signs of Judgment Day. Like earthquakes and, okay, whatever, you know the signs. One sign is particularly scary that not a lot of Muslims know about. One of the late signs of Judgment Day is that Quran will be basically wiped out from every heart in the world. No one will know Quran. No one will know who Allah is anymore. No one will know tasbih. There's literally a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, there will be a man who says, La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, just that. That's all he knows. And then his grandson comes up, or whatever, a kid comes up to him and says, what does that mean? I never heard that before. He's like, I don't know. I heard my parents say it. I have no idea what it means. Dude, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, dude, that's worse than the earthquake. Like, keep in mind, the ruh is what differentiates us from animals. So I was reading some commentary on this hadith and this concept. One of the scholars said that when this happens and Quran is gone, all human beings will be just animals. Because the thing that made you more is now gone. You cannot keep the ruh alive without Quran. You can't. That's why you see a lot of animalistic things happening, for example, in Palestine. These people are animals. They've destroyed you can't destroy the ruh, but they've covered it up completely. They even look unhuman sometimes. When you see people do terrible things, it's like there's something about them that looks like munkar, like, ugh, what's wrong? What are you? Literally. By the way, إِذَا أَخْرَجَ يَدَهُ لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَهُ. Remember that from last time? He takes out his hand, it's like he doesn't even know who he is anymore. Because he covered up that thing that made him, that made her. He doesn't know who he is anymore. The point is, you have these two needs. Now, are these needs in line with each other all the time? No, obviously not. So, for example, the nafs, the body might want to keep eating. Like it takes a slice of pizza and the neurons fire in that person's head and they're like, oh my God. And then no one's looking, so they eat 2 slices and then 3 slices and then 4 and they feel really bad while they eat the 5th slice. And then they feel even worse, but they eat slice 6 and 7 and then whatever. And then the whole thing's gone and they have to destroy the evidence. That's because they let their body take over. Now the ruh in the meantime, while this overconsumption is happening, is like, yo, what are you doing? Like, what? You don't need this. By the way, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, the one that evened it out, yes? When things get uneven, the ruh just starts to be like, why are you consuming so much? Or even beyond overconsumption, when the body wants something haram. The body wants to watch something that you shouldn't watch, or say something you shouldn't say, or backbite, or whatever the case may be, or you have an anger problem or something like that. That's a bodily experience. You feel like you're boiling up and you start to shake, and then the ruh goes, you don't want to say anything dumb, calm down please, you don't want to get in trouble, and he said something stupid. Okay. And then the ruh has to deal with it, right? So you have these two opposing forces. The ruh, for example, what does the ruh want to do to stay alive? What does the ruh want to do? Stay with me here. Don't raise your hand, just shout it so I don't feel bad. It wants to read Quran, it wants to do tasbih, it needs salah, it needs to do good. It needs to, like, the ruh is literally like your conscience comes from this thing. Like every human has this experience of feeling guilty about something. Where does that come from? It's not, evolution cannot explain a conscience. Evolution does not explain your conscience. It doesn't. Evolution does not explain the need for beauty. You don't need things to be beautiful for you to be an advanced monkey. Well, no other animal in the world cares about beauty or cleanliness or not cheating on its wife or no, it doesn't care. It doesn't care that it killed some other animal. It doesn't stay in bed all day depressed because it did something wrong. No, it's an animal. But we have this thing that's beyond this, even a Muslim experience, where people feel guilt. So the ruh starts tugging back, like, please just give me a little bit here. Body, I know you need stuff, but I need stuff. And there's this tug of war, this conflict happening. This conflict, you ready for this? Okay, here's the big reveal. You can literally think of this as almost like a battle. Like the ruh, the needs of the ruh and the needs of the body are literally like fighting as if they're two armies over that's why I drew this special little line in between. It's like, it's not because it's sad or broken heart. It's like I should have thought about that, but yeah, my bad. It's not because it's whatever, broke up with his girlfriend or something. It's like they're fighting over land, literally. It's as if the ruh and the other parts of the nafs that are just the body needs and stuff are fighting over the territory of the qalb, over the territory of the heart. This entire process you see behind me, this battle of back and forth, is called the nafs. This is who you are. Is the conflict actually, subhanAllah? You see how soul doesn't that doesn't work. That doesn't work, actually. By the way, one thing about the ruh I failed to explain, and then maybe I'll give you a break if I feel good about it. But I'll give you one more thing. I told you about the body and its you know about the body and its motivations, the feelings and like the desires and okay, whatever. The ruh, where did it come from? We talked about this in pretty good detail. Where did it come from? From close to Allah, yeah. So literally the ruh, in Quran you literally have a conversation of every human being while we were arwah, while we were these, I'll use the word souls, while we were ruhs, in front of Allah. And Allah asked all of them one very short, simple question. What was that question? It's in Quran. What's that question? Alastu bi rabbikum. Very good, yes. Not who is your Lord. Am I not your master? It's a hypothetical. Am I not your owner? Am I not your caretaker? Am I not your loving master? Am I not your Lord? And every single human being, from the devils of them, to the pharaohs of them, to the prophets of them, to the believers of them, all replied in unison, Bala shahidna. Of course. What are you talking about? You're talking to us. Shahidna, we testify. Every single one of us had this experience. And then we're in this coma state, you can say. And then we're on day 40, while you're in the womb of the mother, the ruh gets inserted into this physical lump of flesh that will become your body and your nafs. And you grow up, you're born, you become a grown man, a grown woman. And then you are this complicated system of this body doing a tug of war with the ruh. The ruh keeps wanting to pull you back up to Allah. And the body wants to keep pulling you back down to earth because that's where it's from. That's the conflict that you are. Now let me talk about this idea of the ruh pulling you up, then we'll take a short break, inshallah. Okay. This is where I love this so much, wallahi. I cannot stop thinking about this sometimes. Okay. The ruh, your ruh and mine and everyone's ruh, was in the presence of who before we were properly born? Presence of Allah. While it was in the presence of Allah, we know from the ayat an-nur that we're baking in Allah's light. Like, you know how, like, for example, the example Allah gave was when a tree, like an olive tree, for example, you take oil from it, and then you can take that oil and put it in a lamp and turn the lamp on, and then it makes a flame, so that way it illuminates the darkness, right? The same way that you are that ruh, you're baking like that tree, and Allah takes you and puts you in this lamp, this chest, and now you're illuminating everything around you because of that ruh that Allah gave you. Okay? While we're in that presence of Allah, we're in His presence, we're learning about Him. So we learn Allah as Al-Jamal. Like the Prophet said, Allahu Al-Jamal, Allahu Al-Jamal, Yuhibbul Jamal, right? I think that's what it is. Sorry, forgive me, astaghfirullah, yes. Inna Allah Jamilun, Yuhibbul Jamal. Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. And every human being also loves what? Where did we get that from? We got it from the Jamil. We got it from the most beautiful. Because again, if you just think of a human being as just an evolution, just an animal, dude, no animal cares about beauty. Pick any species of anything. The way that they make their home has been the case for as far back as we know. No bird makes a nest and goes like, a wardrobe would look so good in that corner. No. No monkey, when they eat banana, they're like, dude, I can make bread out of this. They're just going to eat the freaking banana. No, but we learn things from Allah without realizing it. Like Allah is Al-Hakim. And now we are obsessed with wisdom, with learning. You have people, you'll laugh, but I think it's really cool. People that earn multiple PhDs in ants. And not like any ant, but like a specific ant. And you might chuckle, but that's like, I just want to know everything. And then by the end, they're like, dude, I feel like I don't know anything about this ant. People that really know things feel like they need more wisdom, you know? So you can go on any name of Allah that you can think of. We have a characteristic that matches. Now there's a false belief, astaghfirullah, obviously subhanallah, that, and Allah is higher than this, of course. We do not believe this in Islam, that like, you know how Allah says, وَنَفَخْنَا فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِنَا, we blew in Him from our ruh. That does not mean that we are a part of Allah, astaghfirullah, that's not what that is. Allah owns the ruh, ruhina, our ruh, and He put it in us. It's not like we came from Him. But in His presence, we learn so much about Him, and now we just want to emulate Him without even knowing about it. Like Cake Boss. None of those guys are Muslim probably, but they all want to make the most beautiful taswiyah cake, you know, and they don't even know why. And it's because they're trying to connect with the ultimately beautiful. And they'll never know if they don't hear about Him. We have rahmah because He's Ar-Rahman. You know, we want justice because He's Al-Hakim, He's the judge. That's where this comes from. And I have another theory about this, maybe I'll talk about it afterwards though, but do you see the beauty in this, subhanAllah, so far? Okay, so we covered what a nafs is so far. We're going to finish the rest of the surah. I'll give you guys like until 9:15, okay? Alright, A'udhu billahi wa shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir rahim, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. No, that's fine, I'll talk to myself. Okay, so, wa nafsin wa ma sawaha. So the last oath that he made is by the nafs, which we talked about. The picture of it is behind me. وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, and how it was evened out. So the special, in a nutshell, the special characteristic given to this nafs, this thing that makes us human, is the fact that it was evened out. In and of itself, it knows how to find its own balance. Let me, should I go back to this? No, I'll go back in a second. Okay, let me continue 2 more ayahs and we're going to take a step back, inshallah. Okay. Remember I told you there's an oath, the thing that Allah swears by, and then the reason why He swore by that thing? Okay, we talked about what He swore by, the sun and the moon, the night and the day, the sky and the earth, and now this nafs. And the nafs is the only one standing alone so far. Yeah? Everything else has a pair. Now what's the point of the oath? فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. That's the point. And he did ilham to this nafs. He inspired, he did, like we know the word wahi, for example, but this is different because wahi can even be done to animals. Ilham can only specifically be done to human beings and creatures of like cognizance, basically. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. He inspired in it, meaning in the nafs, fujuraha wa taqwaha, two things. The first thing he inspired is its capacity for fujur, and the second thing he inspired is its capacity for taqwa. You might know the second word and might not know the first word. Fujur literally means its capacity to explode. Like when something gets when a person gets extremely evil, a nafs gets really bad, it literally starts, like Allah is giving the imagery, like it explodes in sin. It goes way beyond the bounds of what even like a non-Muslim would call human. We see a lot of fujur on Twitter nowadays because of what's happening, so I don't think I need to explain this. Yes? Basically, a human being, in and of itself, whether religious or not religious, it knows its boundaries a lot of the time. There's some that it couldn't know by itself, but many know. Many, they do things and they feel guilty. They don't know why they feel guilty, but they feel guilty. So Allah says, I inspired in this nafs its capacity to explode, to go crazy. Fujuraha. And its rebellion, you could even say. وَتَقْوَاهَا. And I also inspired its taqwa, its capacity to protect itself. A lot of the time taqwa is, translated as the word fear, but it's not fear, it's very incorrect. Taqwa is protection. Taqwa means to protect yourself. So Allah, for example, in the beginning of Baqarah says, Hudan lil muttaqeen. It's guidance for people that actually want to protect themselves. Protect themselves from what? From outside evil, from internal evil. People that are aware. A horse that is, I believe the word is waq. I want to say, is it waq? It's whack if it's not, right? But if I believe, I know, I'm sorry, I'm not. But so a horse that is, I believe the word is why, like W-A-Q, waq, wow, alif and qaf, is like a horse that doesn't have horseshoes, which means the feet are extremely sensitive, so it watches every last step. It's like looking before it takes a tall, tiny step. That's what a muttaqi, also a believer also does, that wants to protect himself or herself. It's careful with everything. Okay, I'm going to eat a burger. Does Allah let me eat this burger? Okay, I'll eat the burger then. Is Allah okay if I go here? All right, I'm going to go there. Did I do too much of this? Okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's a muttaqi. Like they're super aware. They want to keep themselves away from harm. They only want to do what the Rabb allows them to do. That's a muttaqi, okay? وَتَقْوَاهَا, and its capacity to protect itself. Meaning, in this nafs, it knows its boundaries. It knows how to purify itself. It knows how to ruin itself. Now let's go back a little bit. Why all those oaths for this purpose? That's now a really beautiful question that comes up when you're studying when Allah swears or make oaths. Is one of my favorite parts of Quran, is when Allah swears by something and trying to connect, okay, what's He trying to tell me? So let's go back to this, okay? We'll go back to the beginning. I swear by the sun and its brilliance. And I swear by the moon and how it follows the sun. Actually, first let me start with this. You'll notice that, as I mentioned before, there's 3 pairs of things: sun, moon, night, day, earth and sky. And then nafs is by itself. Now we know why is nafs by itself. It has its own pair internally. SubhanAllah. It in of itself is a thing that exists in a pair. With the ruh, the needs of the ruh and of the body. And also you can say fujuraha wa taqwaha is a pair as well for it. Allahu alam. The second thing you can say about this, what was the second thing? I remember the third thing and I forgot the second thing. The second thing that we get from this is when you look, harmony, it's harmony and conflict actually. All these 3 pairs that Allah swore by so far, sun and moon, they're in conflict. You can think of where our heart is the battlefield for the ruh and the body, the sky is their battlefield. They're trying to gain supremacy over each other for the sky. They're fighting each other, you can say, okay? And that conflict breeds harmony. We are able to live life because they have that conflict and they're able to reach harmony. They have their set proportions and they follow by the will of Allah, and that's how we have harmony. Then you have night and day, same thing you can say. That is more psychological because when you have, for example, places in the world where night is 20 hours or the day is 20 hours, people end up getting mentally ill actually. They have to do things like get a sun lamp or something to actually be able to survive mentally the challenges of living in Antarctica or wherever these places are, okay? And then the sky and the earth, same thing. There's a conflict between the two, but also a harmony. I'll give you an example of the harmony with sky and earth. You have the sky feeds the earth with water. Okay? But then the earth also, what does it do? Once it's done with that water, a lot of it gets what? Through evaporation, it evaporates, and then the clouds take it back up again in the sky and they spit it back down, and you have this water cycle that you learn in first grade. Everyone knows the water cycle, you guys understand this. Okay. What's really interesting though is when you think about what happens when this harmony breaks. So for example, I gave this example before, but it's okay, probably a lot of you forgot and most of you weren't here anyway. For example, if you release a bunch of pollution, like some mega corporation decides, nope, I want to make an extra $1 billion, so I'm going to use this toxic waste, and it gets evaporated, but I don't care if it gets evaporated because the sky doesn't make a difference what gets evaporated or whatever. So this acid gets evaporated, then what does the sky do? It spits rain, and then you have acid rain. And then the earth burns, and then it's not able to give it more except for more acid until you stop the problem. The idea here is Allah is pointing out all these conflicts in nature. You can call them conflicts actually, like they're fighting. Remember we said وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, the conflict of the night and the day, for example. You have all these conflicts that are actually producing life because of harmony. These things are technically, they're conflicts, but really they're producing harmony. The sun and the moon are, you can say, opposing forces, you can say, but they're producing harmony. The sky and the earth are, they're opposing forces, but they're producing harmony. The same way Allah is saying this nafs is also supposed to produce its own what? Harmony. But the sun and the moon don't get to decide. And the earth and the sky do not get to decide. And the night and the day do not get to decide. But who gets to decide? The nafs, the one that stands alone. They get to decide. They can decide fujuraha, or they can decide taqwaha. They can make their choice. Let's see what they do. It's like Allah pointing to all other creation, being like, they can be in harmony. Let's see what you do. Let's see what you do. So now it's up to us, up to the human being, to find the harmony between the needs of the body, the needs of the ruh. I want to call this out really quick before I give you this third reason of the oaths that I know of at least. And Allahu Alam, but this beautiful concept in Islam that we have, that I don't know of any other religion that has this concept. Most other religions, what they tend to do is they give extra credit to one side over the other, or extra attention, you can say. So for example, in Judaism, they might lean towards the body more so, especially through the mind. If they can explain something through debating, it becomes halal all of a sudden. That's like a very big thing in Judaism, even nowadays. Their religion becomes debating, actually. So if you can debate it with logic, then it becomes halal. That's basically how Judaism works, at least in modern day. Judaism is how it works. So for example, I'll give you the example in Talmud, where a rabbi debated, if I tie up a human being, and the human being starves to death because I didn't feed him, I didn't kill him, the rope killed him. Right? So obviously that's not true. But that's what happens when you feed one over feeding the other. You have in Christianity the opposite problem at certain times, where you had people become monks in a monastery, where they wear uncomfortable clothing that scratches their skin, or they cut themselves off from any sexuality, for example, or they eat disgusting food because I just want my soul to be punished, and I want to rid myself of any bodily desire, and that way I'll meet my Lord and I'll be whatever. And we know how, we have a lot of drama that came out of that, for example. It might be over-exaggerated, but you'll find even, for example, in a lot of the churches that used to practice this, the bodies of little kids under the floorboards because of you fill in the blank. We have in Islam this concept of both need to be honored. You following? Allah is saying they need to be balanced. Both need to be balanced out. You have needs of the body. Those needs are not haram in and of themselves. You need to take care of them. And the ruh has certain needs, and you better take care of them. And you're supposed to honor both. Like we gave the example when Allah defined men, He defined two different things. Number one, they work, meaning they work for this world. But the second thing is what? They don't let that work distract them from salah and zakah. So even His definition of men, He combined these two things together. And in the nafs, He combines these two things and demands harmony from us. Literally, wallahi, our religion is beautiful, guys. What Allah taught us is so beautiful. Think about this. There is a time, think about Ramadan and think about Hajj, or Mecca in general even. Ramadan is a time where you are supposed to be obsessed with which side of this? The ruh. Okay, fine. At least we think. That's how the basic understanding of it is, okay? And then you have, for example, in Hajj. In Hajj, what are you supposed to focus on? The ruh. No, you're supposed to focus on the ruh too. You literally wear like the same janky clothing everyone else is. You put beauty to the side and you focus on the ruh. Even in these two things, Allah sneaks in a lesson about the body. Crazy. Think about this. I've been to Hajj before. You know one thing you're supposed to do while you're doing tawaf of the Kaaba? You're supposed to make dua that you say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. You're in tawaf, dude. You're by the Kaaba. And you're supposed to make dua for what? This world. And the next. In the most spiritual state, Allah's like, you better ask for both. Allah actually complains about people that ask too much for dunya and says, ask for both. This is how you ask me. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً. Ya Allah, give me, I'm sorry, I didn't translate. Give me the best of this world and the best of the afterlife and protect me from Jahannam. That is like the best dua you can make. And you're doing it in haram at Hajj, dude. That's like, is that not a lesson for believers? Like, we're supposed to have this balance. This one's a little bit PG-13, but it's okay. I'll try to water it down a little bit. You know, in the passage of Ramadan, look it up yourself, my man. Look it up. This is how little we know of our own book, wallahi. In the passage of Ramadan, Ramadan's only mentioned one time in the book. It's in Surah Al-Baqarah, towards like the second, third, or whatever. When you read that passage, you know how Allah wraps up that passage? He says that basically He hints that men and women should take this time to be intimate with each other. In Ramadan, like, that's the time that actually you're supposed to rekindle the love with you and your spouse. I thought it was all, Salah and the Quran. It is. But don't forget, atina fi dunya hasana. Like, this is a beautiful thing about our religion, that when we mess with it, we mess with humanity. We mess with humanity. Yeah? When you give too much weight to the body, you will see it. You will see it in a community, how messed up it becomes. When you give too much to the ruh, you will see how messed up it becomes. We're supposed to honor both. So the balance highlighted in these oaths between sun and moon, blah, 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 is the same balance Allah expects in our own selves. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Here's the third thing we can take from the oaths. Let me start from the beginning. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. I swear by the sun as it and its brilliant light, and I swear by the moon as it follows it. So who's in charge in this first pair? The sun, because the moon is following it. Okay, the second one. وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا. And I swear by the day when it gives the sun a chance to be brilliant, basically. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. And I swear by the night as it covers up completely the sun. So now who's in charge? The night. So in the first pair, light was given as like the dominant force. And in the second pair, darkness was actually the dominant force, when you think about it. It's the same thing with you and I. We go through stages where sometimes we're giving the ruh, and it's proper, and we have light. That's what light is, by the way, is when you honor the both sides of this thing, of this nafs of yours with body and with soul, and with ruh, yes? That's when you produce light. So sometimes you got it figured out, and you're like, I got this, and it's good, and you're fine, and then all of a sudden what happens, you hit a rut, you hit a rut or whatever. What's the word, rut? Is that? I'm in a rut? Yeah, rut, okay. It sounds like weird for right now. Anyway, you hit a rut, and you become a little bit, this is why they call the nafs the animal self. You consume too much, you fall back into a sin, you fall back into a bad habit, whatever the case may be, and then you're in a period of darkness. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. It's like, it's kind of validating actually when you think that Allah talks about this. Because a lot of the time when we think of our own like expectations of ourselves spiritually, we want to go from here, we want to go straight up to here. Like if it's a chart of like goodness or whatever, we want to start here and end up here. But Allah is saying it's going to look like this. You're going to go up and down, it'll be fine, and then you work your way up. Because by the way, even at night, isn't there still light a little bit? Yeah. What light is that? The moon. And the moon is in phases, so sometimes you have a crescent moon, so it's not that bright. Sometimes it's full, sometimes it's not there at all. But the point is, you have to get it so that even your dark moments are still something. You understand? And obviously you don't leave the faith or stop the main tenets like salah or whatever. But we all know what you have a question?
Oh no, I am fine to that. You said, like, even then, it's the sun's light that's illuminating the moon.
Oh, thank you so much, Wallah. Yeah, I forgot about that too. Yes, and of course, thank you so much. When the moon is shining, what light is it borrowing from? The sun. You know, the moon does not produce its own light. The moon is just a mirror. It's like a shiny rock. But sorry, not shiny. It's just like a rock. And then it reflects any light that you see off the moon is reflecting from the sun. Yeah? So it's like even at your worst, there's still something there that you can see. Okay. Beautiful oaths. Do you see how it connects now to the idea of nafs? Okay, subhanAllah. I want to end the surah and then leave some room for discussion. So we're almost there. The second half of the surah I'm going to do quickly, inshallah, okay? So don't yell at me. I didn't even talk about this. Whoops. It's okay. We'll go through it quickly. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَاهَا. The one who purified it has succeeded. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And the one who threw it in the dirt, meaning this nafs, the one who ignored it, who threw it in the dirt, who didn't give it any water, whatever, that person khaba. Khaba means he missed out, he's miserable, he's whatever, khaba. It's like you missed out on something, then it's like FOMO, right? It's like khaba. Okay. I want to just call out one word. I'm sorry, I'm being annoying. I wanted to finish it, but I'm going to call it one word. Aflah has a really cool word to use here. I want to call out the imagery that Allah is putting in our head when He uses the word aflaha. There's a lot of word for success in the Quran. Aflaha comes from the same word as fallah. What's a fallah? It's a farmer, which is interesting. So it doesn't mean he farmed, who purified it. It means success. But aflaha is actually, here's the imagery that it gives. You have a farmer who in the beginning, a farmer's job is a very difficult and depressing job actually. Because they have to take out, at least in our country, all these loans, yeah? And he buys all the seeds, and he buys all the tools, and he buys the land, and right now he's in total debt. And the only way he can pay off this debt is if what works out? The crop works out. Otherwise he gets nothing. It's not like he's on salary. He only gets paid if the job works out. And he gets nothing, for example, if a hurricane comes, you're cooked. You have to wait till next year. You're going to be more in debt and then figure out next year. Okay, so let's put this imagery in our head. This farmer tilled the soil. And I don't know if you've gardened. My dad made me garden because he got free slave labor when I was younger. And wallahi, one of the most annoying parts of gardening or farming is getting rid of weeds. Like they keep trying to make products that they pretend work, but none of them work. Like they'll do poison that doesn't work or a tool that doesn't work. My dad ended up handing me a screwdriver. It's like, here, and I had to dig out. I swear to God, I spent summers just like digging out weeds with a screwdriver. Because if you don't get the root, what happens? It grows back. So I got the screwdriver, hate this so much. I don't even have a garden, and like I'm pulling it out. So a farmer has to go through all this turmoil for all of the land, not just the garden, but like the whole thing. Protect it from bugs and other animals, and spray it and take care of it and make sure it gets light, and buy fancy equipment to make sure it grows properly, and water it, and pray to God that the weather works out and it doesn't rain too hard. And then all of a sudden he sees a bud, not even a plant, but just like this little green thing, and he's like, oh my God, aflaha. Actually, aflaha would be when he cuts it and gets paid, but you get the idea. Like when he finally like gets the cash, he's a muflih. He's a muflih. He's successful. The idea, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that same imagery is now used for you and me in our nafs. There are weeds that grow in the nafs. There's water that we need, being revelation and tasbih and salah and like learning about Quran and being good, all these different things. There are bad habits, like if you think of the ruh as something that's planted in this dirt, that you literally are dirt, and you are the earth to this seed of the ruh, and it's in there. Your job is to now make sure that nothing else gets the water that this ruh needs, nothing else gets the nutrients that this thing needs. You keep cleaning it. You have a bad habit, you keep cleaning it out, you unweed it, you go to therapy just to get rid of this bad weed or whatever you have to do. You do whatever it takes to make sure this weed does not mess with my ruh. You make sure that it gets enough water, you make sure it gets enough sunlight, you make sure the body's not ignored as well, like here's a toy you can play with, nafs, leave me alone a little bit, here's a movie or something, and then shut up and leave me alone, I'm going to go back to the ruh. Like you have to placate, the nafs literally like a child in that sense. You have to kind of take care of it, like here's a toy to play with, leave me alone type of thing, yes? And you take care of it and take care of it, and then when does this believer finally get paid? Judgment Day. That's when you present this seed as a plant that Allah can actually judge you by. Now you're the farmer. Now you're the farmer. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The one who purified it, who took care of it, they've succeeded. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And the one that ignored it, dasa, to throw it in the dirt. Like when something is so useless to you, not even useless, worthless is the word. So worthless, like I don't care about feeling bad, I don't care about God or any of it. I want to live my life, man. And you throw it to the dirt, khaba. Khaba, by the way, there's a word that comes from this that literally means, subhanAllah, how consistent Allah's language is, a patch of dirt that didn't get rain. SubhanAllah. It's like how specific Allah is. The imagery is so. There are people that say Quran is random stuff. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Look at how consistent this is. Subhanallah. قَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. He allowed this flower to die. Dassaha. He missed out. He didn't get paid nothing. He didn't get paid. He's in debt. That guy. This person. This woman. In debt. قَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Okay. I want to go to the second part. I'm sorry. I'll do it quickly. The second half of the surah. And then I want to show you one cool thing and we'll end for discussion. كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ. This is weird. Anytime Quran does this, I'll show you what it does first. And I'll shut up first. I'll do this and I'll tell you. Okay. You're following the thematic overview so far, yes? He made oaths that connect with the nafs. He said, you're successfully take care of it, purify it, whatever. Okay. Then all of a sudden, halfway through, كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِتَقْوَاهَا. What? Thamud lied against it, meaning the nafs. بِتَقْوَاهَا, because they rebelled. Thamud, by the way, is the nation that the Prophet Salih ﷺ was sent to. Thamud is like a city. It's a group of people. It's a nation of people. We were just talking about plants and aflaha and the nafs and the blah, blah, blah. What is this doing here? Allah is beautiful in this speech. It's called iltifat in Quran, where all of a sudden He switches to a new topic that to someone who doesn't think with their heart is random. But to a believer, they find a connection. Because Allah does not make mistakes in His speech. He's connecting these two without spelling it out for you because you're intelligent enough, spiritually and intellectually, to figure out for yourself. So we'll go through that. At the end, we'll go through it. كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِتَقْوَاهَا. But you should be thinking about it on your own. Thamud lied against this nafs. It lied against this nafs, بِتَقْوَاهَا, out of their own rebellion. إِذٍ تَبَذَتْ. When's that hard to say? Thank you. إِذٍ بَعْثَتْ أَشْقَاهَا. إِذٍ بَعْثَتْ أَشْقَاهَا. When the worst of them, the most wretched of them, the most disgusting of them, stood up. Ba'atha is to stand up with purpose. The story here is Salih alayhi salam was sent to Thamud. You know how the basic story of a prophet goes. Prophet sent, nation doesn't listen. Prophet pleads with them, nation doesn't listen. They rebel in some extreme way, and Allah lets them go on their leash for a little bit until He cuts them. They're destroyed. That's how a basic story, no different here. Thamud lied against Salih alayhi salam. And so it got to a point where Salih is given one final miracle. Now I want to point something out. When a people are given a miracle outside of the Quranic context, because Quran is the final miracle, yes? In ancient prophets before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you're given a miracle, that's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. When you're given a miracle, a lot of the time, when you're given a miracle, that means that this is your final chance. If you're not going to listen with the ruh, then look with your eyes, and if you fail this, you will be cut off. Like for example, when Isa alayhi salam was given the Ma'idah, the whatever, Allah is some of the most strongest language in the book. If anyone disbelieves, this is Allah talking to Isa alayhi salam. I'll give you the table, the table spread. If anyone disbelieves in you after this, then I will punish them with a punishment that I have never punished anyone else before them. Positive or negative? Negative. Yeah, it's you don't mess around with miracles. The miracle Salih was given was what? Who knows? Yeah, the she camel. So you have this big boulder, and he tapped it or something, and a living camel came out of it. A huge camel came out of it, which is like, you can't really argue, okay, a camel came out of a rock, he's probably a prophet. That's typically how a rational human being would think about this, but they obviously did not react rationally. So what happened was, all these people were kind of sitting, and the guy's name is even known because Mecca, actually people of Quraysh knew this guy's name, but it doesn't really matter anyway. But they were sitting in a circle, and one's like, man, I hate that camel. And this camel, by the way, they were given, there's a pond that Thamud drank, or a lake that Thamud drank out of. And Salih alayhi salam, now that he has this miracle, which gives him authority, he's like, you're allowed one day of this lake, and then she gets a day in the lake, the camel gets a day in the lake, and then you and then her do not cross the bounds of Allah, Salih told them, alayhi salam. So the she camel's drinking, and they're respecting it for a little bit. And then these disgusting people are sitting around, and they're like, man, I hate that camel. It sounds stupid, but I hate that thing, man. That's its day today. We're not allowed to drink today. And everyone's like, oh, you should kill it. You know what? I will kill it, bro. You know how like guys when they're together, they talk like that? You know what, dude, I will do it. Yeah, you should, bro. Yeah, I will. Like that. So إِذٍ بَعْثَتْ أَشْقَاهَا, the most disgusted, the most wretched of them were like, you know what, bro, I'll do it. إِن بَعْثَ أَشْقَاهَا. He got up with purpose. فَقَالَ لَهُمْ, and he's walking to the camel. He's intending to what? Kill it. فَقَالَ لَهُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. So the Rasul of Allah, the Messenger of Allah, called to them, نَاقَةَ اللَّهِ. Not even be careful with the camel of Allah. Naqat Allah, the she camel of Allah. The camel of, it's like he's so, like when you don't have time, like you're in trouble and you're not like, you don't have time to be like, help, I'm falling and I need assistance because I'm falling off a cliff. You just say what? Help, like that. It's like the camel of Allah. That's all he can do while he's running. The imagery here is that there's urgency. وَسُقْيَاهَا, and it's drink. فَكَذَّبُوهُ, and they all lied against him. Notice it's one guy that stood up, but they all lied against him because guess what? No one stopped him. And they were egging him on. فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَعَقَرُوهَا, so they didn't just kill it, عَقَرُوهَا, they mutilated it. The proper way to kill a camel is you do the neck and it's a merciful killing. Yeah, you swipe on the neck with the sword and you're good, or with a big knife. The way this guy did it, how disgusting as he was, may Allah curse him, he took a big knife or a sword and he cut the ankles. And it's on its stubs and it's not dead, so what happens? It's just screaming in pain for hours. Can you imagine how long? If you shoot a human being in the kneecap, it takes 3 hours before they die in agony. Imagine a camel with how big its body is, the hours and hours it'll take, and it's screaming in pain and screaming in pain. He's laughing. عَقَرُوهَا فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ. Damdama is like when you take like sand when you're a kid and you pound it. I was that annoying brother that broke my brother's sandcastle, for example. I don't know what he did. I was probably just being a jerk. But damdama, when something in Arabic has repetition in the word, it also has repetition in the action. So not dama, damdama, 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 like that. Just Allah kept pounding. فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِذَنْبِهِمْ, because of their embarrassing sin that they did. فَسَوَّاهَا, and He made it even. This, wallah, when I was reciting it the other day, I was like, whoa. فَسَوَّاهَا. Where did we hear sawaha before in the surah? The nafs sawaha. Allah's like, if you don't do sawa, I will do it to you. You don't make yourself even, I'll make you even. They didn't make themselves even, I made them even. فَسَوَّاهَا وَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَاهَا, and He's not afraid of the consequences the way that they should have been afraid of the consequences. Allah can do what He wants, and He doesn't have to. In the Bible, for example, God destroys a nation and He felt bad. What have I done? Astaghfirullah. As if God makes mistakes. Astaghfirullah. There's a lot of shirky things in the Bible that we don't believe in, yes? Not all of it, but there's some parts in it. I know one story where Adam alayhi salam is playing hide and seek as if God can't find him. He hid behind a rock and God couldn't find him. It's just weird. It's weird. Well, shirky. What do you mean God can't find you? Anyway, sorry, that's a tangent. We're going to do Adam next week. That's why I'm getting ready and now I'm already going there. Or not next week, 2 weeks from now, inshallah. But وَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَاهَا. He's not afraid of the consequences. In parentheses, they should have been. And the same way you should be. Now I'll go back to the randomness, quote unquote, of why is this story here. You have in the beginning, the first part of the surah. If you split it into two halves of the surah, the first half is about the nafs and about an individual purifying their own nafs. The second half is what happens when a group of people or a nation of people don't care about the nafs. What do they become? They become like Thamud. Meaning on an individual level, you're supposed to take care of yourself, and when enough individuals get together and take care of themselves, you have a community that can act as a light for communities around them. The way that, for example, Bani Israel, the children of Israel that we now call the Jews, that they were supposed to be for humanity, is a beacon of light for him. They were supposed to be. Allah meant that for them. But if a group of people, enough people, a nation of people do dassa, they throw this consciousness, this nafs of theirs away into the dust, then they become a nation where nothing good can possibly come out of them. And then Allah does damdama alayhim. You see the connection there, subhanAllah, between these two halves. One final thing, and then I'll end it here, inshallah. Woof. I'm sorry, guys. By the way, we will be going till 10 anyway. If you want to do discussion, if you don't have to stay. One final thing. Whenever I get a chance to, I like to talk about the nadhm, the structure of Quran. So the structure of a surah, because it's so short, I decided to throw it in here. You have, you can think of it as being split in half, like I just described, and that works. Another way that Ustaz Munir, was it? Yeah, I love this guy. He has a really cool, I'll share again this website, a Substack. It's really cool that he talks about ring composition. Remember, who was here for ring structures in Quran? Who's here for that? Oh, you remember? Oh, cool, 3 of you. It's more than I expected. We talked about this at length, about how Quran is perfectly mirroring of each other. I can go on for hours. But here's one example of it. You can think of it as 3 parts. I'll just show you. So you have, connect? Yeah, I can. Okay. You have the first part, follow where I'm going. The first part the conflict and harmony of creation. So all the oaths that he took about creation, like the sun and the moon, and that we said has harmony. Like the sun works with the moon, and we don't have life despite that harmony. We have life because of that harmony. We talked about this with the oaths. Then I'll skip the middle. Towards the end, you have a nation of human beings who decided to go out of harmony. You following so far? So nature that has no choice but to be in harmony, and then a group of people who chose disharmony, who chose rebellion, بِطُغْيَاهَا. Is that the word? كَذَبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِي طَغْوَاهَا, excuse me, yeah, طَغْوَاهَا. Which, by the way, a play of taqwa, taqwa, right? Anyway, so you have a nation that decided imbalance versus physical realities that can't decide anything but balance and harmony. And then you have in the middle, the nafs can choose between purification and corruption. Or in other words, it can choose between balance and imbalance. If you want an idea of balance, look at my creation, because you might not find it in human beings around you. If you want an example of human beings in imbalance, here's Thamud. And now what choice are you going to make? Just such a mind-boggling, beautiful little package of lessons in what can't be more than like 80 words. SubhanAllah. That people literally still use nowadays for Islamic psychology. It's so beautiful, Allah. Anyway, that's Shams. All right. Well, I had fun with you guys. What we're going to do, Adam, if you don't mind, we're going to close this. Goodbye. We don't record this part, but what we do afterwards in Tanzeel until the end of it, you don't have to stay for it, obviously.